Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the extra mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now your hosts, Jackson Mummy and Megan Saya from Celebration Bar Review.
Everybody, welcome. Today is Wednesday, September 14th. And if I sound a little froggy, it's because I had my fifth COVID booster on day and it kicked my butt. And I am suffering both from brain fog and just generally bleh. So I've asked June and Megan to basically handle everything today. Hi guys, how are you?
Hi, doing well, Jackson. Sorry you're feeling under the weather.
Yeah, this is not fun. So what we decided we're going to do today is I'm going to say hi. I'm still here and breathing. And then I'm going to turn off my camera and microphone. And if Megan or June need me for something, I will pop back on. I'm going to watch, but I don't have enough energy to get all the way through this. So today, Megan and June are the answerers of all questions. And I'll be back next week. We'll have Florida results, right? That's the big thing that's coming up later this week.
Yep, that's right. Pretty exciting.
Yeah. So with that, I'm going to turn off my camera and my microphone, and I'm going to listen to you guys. And if you need me, just call her and I'll come back in. Okay?
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Jackson. All right. Hi, June. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hey, Megan, I'm great. A lot better than Jackson's doing.
Yeah, good. Good to have you here. I'm glad I'm not totally on my own today.
You're not by yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, June. All right. So only other announcement is real brief. We're going to talk about it a little bit later because we have a question about it, but that's boot camp. Boot camp is starting to fill up. I'm getting really excited about it. It's going to be October 14th and 15th in Central Florida in Celebration. It's a really nice time of the year there. Highly recommend coming. So that's a Friday and a Saturday. And we are super excited. Jackson, June, and I will all be there. And we'll talk to you guys more about it as we go. But if you have any questions about it, registration is due by September 23rd. We did that intentionally because we know Florida students, you are getting your results on the 19th. And so we wanted to give Florida students particularly a chance to be able to register anybody who took the Florida bar and was unsuccessful to be able to register and come to boot camp, because it is an awesome way to really improve your score. And hopefully, and we've had so many boot campers get passed across the finish line after coming to boot camp. It's really awesome to see. So exciting. All right, let's turn now to results. Speaking of Florida, so you guys aren't done yet, but almost there. So first up, we've got Arkansas. They had a 70% overall pass rate. 75% of their first time takers passed and 32% of the repeaters. This is pretty consistent and in line with what we're seeing across the country right now. Washington State had a 72% overall pass rate. That was 79% of first time takers and 27% of repeaters. Then Oklahoma had a 65% overall pass rate with 73% first time and 29% repeater. We also have New Mexico, really similar numbers, except good news for the repeaters. So they had a 75% overall pass rate, 79% first time takers, and 52% repeaters. So awesome numbers for repeaters in New Mexico. Nebraska released results as well. Then North Dakota, we don't have any numbers for Nebraska yet. North Dakota released with 59% overall pass rate, 65% first time takers, and 22% repeaters. So that's one of the lower repeater pass rates we've seen. I do want to mention though that's obviously North Dakota is a very small jurisdiction. And so I don't know what the exact numbers were yet on the number of repeaters who took it. It might have been a very small pool. So never get freaked out when you see real low numbers like that. And then Missouri released today. And so I don't have the numbers yet, but we'll let you guys know. So you can see really consistent. They're low numbers, but we've been seeing that trend for the last few years. And so there's really not any huge difference. That's good news, I think. The NCBE actually just released the MBE. The national mean was 140.3 for the July 2022 exam. And so that's really very consistent. I think it's like 0.1 difference from last time. It's very consistent across the board. Now, the national mean for the MBE, I have to say, so this is just for the multiple choice test. Obviously, that's been graded now for every student who took it across the country. The national mean is interesting just to make sure it hasn't shifted very much, which it hasn't. But I do want to point out that national number doesn't really matter because it matters what happened in your state, specifically because, of course, that's how you're admitted or not admitted by your state's jurisdiction. It's just helpful information to know, at least on a national level, there was no large jump. We see every time that students come out of the exam, and usually not our students, I have to say, I'm really proud of them, but online, the chatter is pretty much always without fail. The MBE was so hard. It was so much harder than when I practiced. I think that was the hardest MBE there's ever been. And I think that it's really funny because we always see when the numbers come out from the NCBE, they're really very consistent numbers. So it's an interesting fact point that you don't really have to worry about it. Even if it seemed particularly hard, it's pretty consistent every year. All right. Expected this week for people who are waiting for their results. Montana should have been sent out on the 12th via mail. It's so funny. I can't believe there's jurisdictions that still like release through mail before they release online. But hopefully, if you're waiting for Montana, you'll get that within the next couple of days. Idaho is supposed to be released today. Utah should be around the 15th, which is tomorrow. Florida is going to be released. Everything points to the 19th. And then Maine releases in mid-September. So hopefully that should be somewhere in this next week as well. So that's what we're looking forward to for the next week. And we'll keep you guys updated next week with what is happening in the world of the bar. Yes, Jackson, you want to add something?
Well, I just want to jump in to talk. Thanks. That's a great reach out. I just want to talk about what's going to happen with Florida. If you were one of our students and you passed, that's great. We want to know about that. We want to share and celebrate your success. If you were not successful, we'd like you to send us your score sheet as soon as you get it. Inform us that you've not been successful so that we can get you right back into the course. As soon as I get your score sheet, I will record a video for you in which I will talk about what my suggestions would be and improvements that I think you could make. But I'll tell you right now, the number one thing I'm going to suggest to any Florida bar taker or any UBE bar taker who's failed is that they consider coming to boot camp. I still think that's the most effective tool that we can offer to any student in order to bring our scores up. So again, the protocol is if you were not successful, let us know. We'll get you set up right away in the course so you can continue your studying, and then send us your score sheet so we can make the video.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jackson.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to turn now to some questions that we have from students. And for anybody who's just logged on, Jackson is super sick today, but still wanted to go through with the webinar. That's such good dedication. I love it. So he is here, but not here. So letting you guys know. So it'll just be me going through the questions, maybe with a little bit of help from June, who's awesome. All right. So the first question is, I am asking for advice on which bar to sign up for. So this is a student who has taken the Texas bar previously and only has one opportunity left. Texas doesn't allow you to sit indefinite amount of time. So this person is on their last chance in Texas and is asking, they're looking at Arkansas and Oklahoma, and then they would waive into Texas because Texas, of course, became a UBE state a little bit ago. So you can waive in a UBE score as long as it was passing in Texas. So they're asking about what's your best advice on what to do. So definitely, if you're going to waive in, and this is true for anyone who's looking at the UBE, if you're going to waive into a state, then it doesn't really matter where you sit in terms of what their score is or anything like that. Now, it might be helpful if you're thinking, I'd like to maybe get barred anywhere, and I have a few places that I feel like I'm right on the cusp, and maybe if I sit there, I can go ahead and pass the bar in that state, and then I can hopefully have had a high enough score to waive into another state that I would have my reach maybe, then definitely take that into consideration. But In terms of waiving your score into another state, it's the score of that waiver state that you need to care about. And so that means in Texas, I believe it's a 270. So Oklahoma, let's say, is a 264. That means if you sat for the test in Oklahoma and you got a 265, you would pass the Oklahoma bar, but you would not be able to waive into Texas. And then, of course, if you hit the 270, then you would pass the Oklahoma bar and you could give your score over to Texas and do all of the requirements there to waive into that state. It's really about the convenience for you. Where is it easy for you to travel to? Maybe you have family or friends in a state where you could stay with them, something very low stress for yourself, not spend a ton of money, things like that. So whatever makes sense for you, that's a great way to do it. But in terms of the UBE, that's the really nice thing, is that hopefully you don't really have to take a lot of other considerations into it. It's just what's the most convenient place for you to take the test is probably what I would say. All right. I'm going to bring June in actually to answer this next question because she knows this stuff way better than I do. June, this question from the student is, what paraliminals are in the Abundance Paraliminal Pack and the Calm and Health Paraliminal Pack?
Yeah. So we have two. We have the Abundance Paraliminal Pack. And in that one, the paraliminals, excuse me, are prosperity, living the law of attraction, belief, and success built to last. So all of these are great for short little meditations to get you on track for study. And then in our second pack, they actually have an A and a B. So for a verse in Calm and Health, it's a little bit of a larger paraliminal pack. So version A is anxiety free. Yay for that. Overcoming overwhelm. I know a lot of our students are dealing with overwhelm. Perfect health, and 5 elements to healing. And then version B of the Common Health is anxiety free, overcoming overwhelm. Notice a pattern here, fearlessness, and no matter what. Version B is my favorite if you just needed some help with that. Fearlessness is one of my favorite paraliminals in the whole world. And so I think whatever pack you go with, you're in good hands. It's a really good investment for you, for your studies, and for your mindset. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you, June. I appreciate it. All right. Next question is, for each of the multi-state outlines, where can I find the table of contents? All right, so obviously, if you have a physical book, then there's a table of contents at the beginning. If you're looking through the online platform, if you're in the specific subject and you're just going to that outline, it's not going to have the table of contents because we were already there, right? You're already like zeroed in on the part that you need to be at. So what you need to do on the digital platform is at the beginning of the course, they have the digital books. And if you go there, they have the full table of contents, everything, because it gives you the full book just in an online version, but it's the same as you would have if you had a printed copy. So you can go there to the beginning of the course if you need to access the table of contents for things like to make your mind maps. All right, then June, let's chat about Bootcamp. This next question about Bootcamp. Someone said, do we have until the 23rd, correct? I will be there.
That is right. So the 23rd is not only to register, but to pay in full. So if you're thinking about coming, I highly recommend you go ahead and put your deposit down, because as I posted in the chat, the link, there are only a few seats left. We are capping it to keep it very small, and so we can give everybody as much one-to-one attention as possible. So for Florida, results will release on Monday. And while we hope everybody was successful, there may be some Floridas that want to attend. So just giving you a heads up, if you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, email me. Tell me why you're on the fence. I'll talk you off of it, because boot camp is like my favorite thing in the entire universe. So there you go.
Yeah, it's really an awesome experience. It's so good and helpful to spend that time where you don't have the other distractions. I think that's one of the huge things that I heard from so many students is they were like, yeah, I got to go and I didn't have my kids that I had to take care of. I didn't have my partner. I didn't have my job. I didn't have all of the stuff that's in my house that I look at and I go, oh gosh, I feel so guilty for studying. I really should be taking care of this problem or project. So it really gives you an opportunity to say, guilt-free, I just get to focus on my studies, how I want to do this, my mindset, get in the right place, learn these skills, practice these skills in community with other people, and not feel the tug that I normally feel in my life. It's the thing of like when I graduated from law school, right? It's like most of my friends stayed in Charlottesville where we went to law school, and they took a bar class like on campus, and they had no responsibilities. Their jobs hadn't started yet. They're just living in this college town. They're like hanging out. They're going to the bar class and they're coming home and they're studying. And it was like, there was just didn't feel like the real world. It was, oh, we're at summer camp and we're just doing this, right? For most repeaters, though, that is not the reality at all. And for many people, the reason why they're repeaters is because that was never their reality. They were like, I have responsibilities. I have people and things that I have to take care of. And I can't just have a summer camp experience all summer and study for the bar for a couple of months and do literally nothing else. And so obviously we can't take all of your real world responsibilities away from you. But I think boot camp is such a great little taste of that, of, hey, let's take a couple of days, because I bet you can take a couple of days and spend that time where you just get to do what you need. And we're here, Jackson and June and I are all there literally the whole time just to help you with what do you need. And so it's so focused, and it's just a great opportunity that for many of our students, they never had that chance to do something like that, because there's just all of the other life stuff that's constantly, I know for me too, weighing on you all the time. So I really hope that some people who maybe feel like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I can get away. It's like 48 hours. I hope you can. I hope you can make that time to take for yourself, for your study, to help push you, especially, gosh, if you feel like I need one last thing to unlock this, I'm right there, you should be at boot camp. If you feel like I don't even know where to start, I am so overwhelmed, feels impossible, you should be at boot camp, because the point is that all three of us are going to be able to meet you where you are. And it's so much easier to do in these small group settings in person. We try our best to meet you where you are in all the different ways through the course virtually. But oh my goodness, there's something special about being able to look somebody in the eye and really hear their story and share your story, be a part of this growth and this learning process together. It's really a wonderful time. So I really encourage anybody who's interested, please take the leap. I don't know anybody who's gone to boot camp and said, that wasn't worth it. I really regret it.
And guys, I know it feels like we're being hard on this. And the reason why we are is because we're passionate about it. Like, we have seen firsthand the success that comes out of it. And I hear, oh, June, it's only 2 days. Your world can change in 2 days. I'm telling you that. And what I love the most about boot camp is, especially since the pandemic, is we've lost so much connection, and studying virtually and solo is already very isolating. And from previous boot camps, we have seen the connections that the students make with each other, like lifelong friendships, and they buddy up and support each other through this exam period, which is great to have that. But the big thing I see is students who've been struggling with that one little thing that's tripping you up through previous bar exams. The light bulb goes off and you're like, oh my God, I didn't have to struggle. And you don't. And that's the thing. The time, the investment, isn't it worth it to finally move on and be good to go?
Yeah. Yeah. So contact any of us if you're interested in boot camp. You can sign up on the website. We would just love to meet each and every one of you. And like June said, we are getting really close to it being full. We just really want to see your smiling face there. Let us know any questions that you have or anything about that. All right. I'm going to move on to study strategy questions now. This is a great one, and that we always get around this time, which is this person said that Jackson had mentioned maybe doing about 10 hours weekly at this point. How should I do this schedule? I'm not sure how to schedule it. Where we are right now with your studies, if you're taking the February exam, you should be studying 10 to 20 hours a week. This is one of those, if you can, bank it now. So if you have a calm time and you can do 20 hours a week, go ahead and do it, because when we hit the holidays, you are going to be very thankful that you were able to get ahead of it. Okay. If that's not realistic for you, that's okay, but really try to hit that 10 hours a week. Less than that right now, and you're going to be feeling the stress later on. And we don't want you to feel any stress about this. Okay. Now, in terms of scheduling, Brianna does an amazing time management coaching tool. It's one-on-one. You'll have a Zoom call with her. She will walk you through your schedule specifically and how to put this together. So that's really great if you need some individualized help on what do I do. In terms of general help, though, for anyone, what we always say is you should not plan out too far ahead. Okay. So, what you want to do is maybe say this upcoming week, right? We're in Wednesday. So, hopefully, you already know what you're planning on doing for the rest of the week. But then for next week, go ahead and think right now, okay, what does my schedule look like? What's realistic for me? Don't overcommit. Okay. Don't, because you're just setting yourself up for failure and disappointment. So be realistic. What do I think I can do each day? Maybe it's when it depends on what it looks like for you, but you're going to use the study guide. Don't reinvent the wheel. Oh my gosh, I say this all the time, but don't feel like I need to rearrange everything. No, we have it for you. Go ahead and follow that study schedule. Okay. It's follow your study guide, and just slot things in. All right. I think I've got 4 hours next Monday. Great. Let's look. What's next? What's going to be next for me? All right, great. I'm going to try to get through this lecture, right? Okay, the next day I've got a little bit longer that day. I think I can do a couple hours in the morning and like maybe 3 later on. Great. Maybe I'm doing like reading an outline and then working on my mind map, or I'm doing some MB questions. So go ahead and just think through the week ahead of you, but don't put too much pressure on yourself and look too far ahead, because then you'll get overwhelmed when inevitably life happens and you have to readjust. So just do it little bite-sized chunks. You want to have that goal be attainable. All right. So anybody who needs help with the scheduling more specifically, definitely sign up for the time management call. I think it'll be really helpful for you. All right. Next question is, do we have an example of a mind map? Yes. In lesson 3.5, there is a video that takes you through how to build a mind map. And so this is for every course. You will go ahead and watch the video and you'll see how Jackson puts the whole thing together. So that'll be really helpful. And it's a great way for you to use that as like a model for your own. That being said, you get to make it your own. So however it makes sense for you to build it is fine. All right. Veronica in the chat box had a great question. What's the study guide I'm referring to? We used to call it the study guide. Now that the web platform is online, it's following the process of your course online. So all the units are numbered. You're just going to go through all of them in order. So don't bounce around. But as Jackson said, in unit 2, there is a study guide that you can look at as well. But basically all I mean is don't take things out of order. If it's go from lesson 2.1 to lesson 2.2, not from lesson 2.1 to lesson 5.1. Okay, that's all. All right, great. Next question is, this is a good one. Is it better to create my own mind maps, or are the prepared mind maps you have available equally effective for retaining the material? Is the purpose behind creating the mind maps learning, and then the finished product is for review, and skipping a step of creating it from scratch, taking away from the learning process? All right, great question. So basically what June says, which I love, is that the BarMaps, so buying the starter, is a jumping off point. We never want anybody to look at those and say, great, my work is done, right? No, we want you to build out from those. So we're starting by doing the sort of really easy, tedious piece for you, which is basically using the outline or like the table of contents for the subject to build your basic mind map. So that part doesn't take a lot of brain power. It just takes some time. So this way you can skip all that and you don't have to worry about the time there. And then what you'll do is you'll build your own mind map from that, however it makes sense to you. So as you dive deeper into different subtopics, you will go deeper in your mind map. You can rearrange things, however your mind views the subject. That's the beauty of mind maps, is that there's not a right or wrong way. So definitely they're a great tool for skipping the tedious work that's just can be very time consuming. So particularly, I think Jackson created mind maps, particularly for students who are like, I would love to mind map, but I just don't think I have the time to do it. Great. Here, now no excuses. Go ahead and start from a little bit further down the road and then build on as you go through the rest of your materials. That's a good question. All right. Next is an interesting question about if we have MBE questions broken up by subtopics so that someone can find patterns through the way that they ask questions. All right. The first answer to that is no. We have them broken down by subject matter, and then we have the mixed practice. So if you need to, when you first are starting your course and you're going in and you're doing whatever, like crim law, contracts, con law, MBE questions with that subject specific practice, we have that and you're going to be able to do that. But within those topics, we don't break them down to subtopics. What we do have is we have in the outlines, the subject matter outlines for the MBE subjects, it gives you the breakdown of from the NCBE what percentage each Roman numeral is tested. So it might say Roman numeral is and all of the topics underneath Roman numeral 1 are 50% of this topic on the MBE. Roman numerals 2 and 3 are each 25%. Whatever that is from the NCBE, we give you that information. We don't break it down any further because it's not really worth, we haven't found that was like particularly valuable for students to have it broken down that specifically. It's interesting. If you want some practice on a specific topic, what we've actually done is our series on the MBE practice questions in the webinars, those Jackson uploads into your course, and those are much more subtopical, right? So that's where you can look and see, like we did consideration last week. Great. So if I'm looking for some consideration practice, but you'll notice we have 3 questions. Some subtopics are bigger than others, but for many, there's certainly not going to be like 50 questions on consideration in the materials, things like that, because there's a whole lot of other things that have to get covered as well. So anyway, that's not broken down that way. The other thing though that I want to say about this is very clever. They were thinking like, okay, can I find like the pattern and can I hack the system here? I love it. I love the inventiveness with that. But I think really the reality is you've got to study and you're going to learn these things and you're going to practice it. And there's not like a secret hack in that way. I will say though, as you put in the work, you will notice, oh, there is a pattern to the way that questions are asked in general, not within a sub. It's not like they always ask consideration questions in the same exact way. That doesn't happen. But you'll notice like, oh, they do phrasing questions like this. You'll see the same kinds of question stems where they're asking you like, what the ultimate question that they want answered. You'll start to see, oh, this feels pretty familiar. I've read questions like this before. You'll start to see patterns in the way that they phrase the answer responses, how Jackson talks to you about the selective intuition. Before you get to the answer choices, you want to stop and think, what do I think? What am I expecting to see? Some of that expectation comes from saying, oh, I've done so many of these questions and I recognize they're probably going to give me 2 responses that say the evidence should be admissible because, and 2 responses that say the evidence is inadmissible because, right? Or sometimes they'll say 3 admissible because and 1 inadmissible. So that kind of stuff you'll start to notice. But the only way to notice that pattern is to do the practice questions, to do it over and over again, to start to trust your intuition about the questions themselves. So I love the question and I love the idea of like, how can I like game the system here? Hey, any way that we can make you guys do better on the MBE, I'm all for it. But I think with this one, it's really that gaining that intuition about the questions comes, I find, when people have done the questions over and just feel really comfortable with them and start to trust themselves about, oh yeah, I don't have to be scared about this. I know, even if I'm not totally sure about this subject, it feels familiar to me because I've done it over and over again, which it also is part of the spiral review, the stepped repetition that we definitely build into our course. All right, next question, and maybe last one, I think. Yes, in similar, as we're talking about the MBE. So this student is a new student who said they've completed their mind maps and they photo read each day. That's really impressive. Good job. I will note, I've completed my mind maps. If you're a February student, your mind maps aren't complete yet because you're going to be adding on to them. Okay. When we get a little closer, maybe then I'll accept that I've completed them. But know at this point that it's a dynamic document. So don't feel like, nope, that's it. I've done it. My mind map is what it is. You're going to be adding to it as you go through, as you find new subtopics that you say, oh, I didn't really remember that, or that feels unfamiliar to me. You're going to be adding to your mind map. Okay. So know that. All right. But then they said, when should I start doing practice questions? Can I begin now and just keep doing them? So this really wraps up everything that we've been talking about with follow your course. So yes, you will be doing practice questions. We have you do them in a specific order. So go ahead and follow that order and trust the process. That means when you are in a subject, you're going to read in that subject. You're going to listen to a lecture in that subject. You're going to do a practice essay in that subject, and you're going to do practice MBE questions if it's an MBE subject. Okay. So don't panic and feel like you're missing out and you need to get a jump start. I promise you're going to get to it. And I feel like this student probably was right on the cusp. If they're this far along already, I'm sure they were right on the cusp of getting to the MBE practice questions. So you will get there. We have so many. We have every licensed MBE question that exists from the national conference. We have answer explanations. We have so much opportunity for you to practice those MBE questions. So I promise you will get to it. We don't want to overwhelm you. We don't want you to jump into the MBEs totally blind. So it's really helpful to have studied it, worked with it, manipulated the subject a little bit, and then you get to dive into your MBEs and do the practice and get a feel for not just, okay, how did I do on this subject, but also, oh, what in the MBEs did I see that was new to me, or that I thought, oh, I remember reading that, but I don't really remember much about it and I wasn't really sure what to do with it. Great. Then you're going to be able to have opportunities to do deep dives and understand the question more and understand the subject more, add it to your mind map, and then move on. Okay. So really great questions of just, it all boils down to follow through your course. Don't stress out. You all have tons of time right now. And so you, as long as you keep putting that one foot in front of the other, then I think you're going to be in a really good place. All right. One more question in the chat box here. Makes sense to study the answers for the MBE. Your approach, am I right with studying this? Yes, definitely. That's why we give you the answer explanations on the MBE questions, the practice questions. We want you to read those. Okay. So read them, add to your mind map if necessary, for sure. If there's anything that you don't understand, remember, you don't have to be a master of it the first time through. Okay. So don't panic and feel like I have to know it perfectly before I can move on. But we do want you to review them. Make a note for yourself of anything that you're like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Make a note. Okay. So you have the opportunity to go back and try to understand it a little bit deeper, but don't be too hard on yourself and don't put too much pressure on yourself. You don't have to get it perfect. You're going to come back to the subject again. This is not the last that you'll see of it, but definitely you want to read through, why is that the answer to the MBE question? If I got it right, did I get it right because I understand that concept? If I got it wrong, why did I get it wrong? What is it about that I can help for understanding next time moving forward? All right, Jackson, you want to hop back on with me? Anything to add? I know it was a whirlwind.
Oh, you were awesome. Man, you and June were awesome. Such wisdom there. It was nice to be able to listen. I agree with everything you said. 20 hours a week is still what we want students to be doing. We are still more than 4 months out from the bar exam. As you said earlier, Megan, this is your bonus time. Whatever you get done now, you are really going to, future you is going to appreciate very much that you did all this work now. I think if you're under 10 hours a week, that would be a warning sign if you're a February student. So we'd like to see in that 10 to 20 hour time frame. I think that would make a big difference. I also think there was the discussion of finding ways, hacks into looking at the MBEs. The MBE has been around over 50 years. We have studied literally tens of thousands of data points. I think that we are as conversant in that as anyone, but in any event, we spend a lot of time looking at the data and we don't see any pattern in the MBE that we can articulate or draw out that is predictable. And the examiners do this, I think, intentionally, and they're trying to make sure that the test is fair. So if it's too predictable, then that becomes unfair. So I think that's one of the things that we try to do. But if you follow through our step-by-step approach, you're going to have a complete basis and you'll be ready for the exam. And that's really what it comes down to, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Great questions this week, guys. Thanks for bearing with me as I had like the world's longest monologue. I'm sorry about that, but hopefully I was helpful and answered all your questions. And yeah, I hope that everybody's studies go well this week. Just keep at it. I think at this point, it's really, you're ahead of the game if you're studying. So keep at it and don't just keep a good attitude with all of it. That's really like the big thing is it's a marathon. We are in like mile 1 right now. And so I don't want anybody burning out in mile 1. We want to get you all the way there. The finish line is pretty far away. So let's just keep going one step in front of the other for sure. But we're really proud of the work that everybody's been doing. Keep it up and let us know always what we can do to help any way that we can assist you on your journey. And we hope to see so many of you at boot camp. I'm so excited. The people who've signed up, I can't wait to meet you guys in person. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. I want to add one other final note. I was just thinking about this pretty randomly. We're starting to get some of these results in from some of our students who are in small UBEs. One of the things we've noticed is we've had some people who, Megan, you were talking earlier about the example of the Texas student. They don't get the score that they needed in the jurisdiction that they were physically present in, but they get a score in the UBE that's good enough to get licensed in, so 260 or better. If you get a 260 or better on the UBE, regardless of where you sat, you have passed the UBE. You're actually able to get licensed in 5 states, maybe more, depending on what your score was. So we just want to remind all of you that what looks sometimes like failing is not. You actually passed. We had a student last week who had that circumstance in North Carolina. They thought they'd failed because they didn't get their North Carolina number, but they passed the UBE, and that's a win. And really, if you can get licensed somewhere in this day and age, that's a good thing. And we want you to celebrate that. As you're going through the UBE, keep that in mind. For those of you getting your Florida results, remember there's Part A and Part B. You're going to need to get a combined 136, but if you get 136 on one part and not the other, you pass that part and you can bank it. So lots of different ways to look at this, and we'll break all that down next week. Be a lot to talk about with Florida results, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. And so hopefully Jackson will be feeling better and be able to impart his wisdom.
Yeah. Thank you very much, June. And thank you, Megan, for being here and giving me the week off. I appreciate that a lot. And now I'm going to wrap this up and I'm going to go sleep for a couple of hours and we will be back. But I hope everybody has a good study weekend. And we really do look forward to seeing you all at boot camp. We really hope you'll do that. And thanks, guys, for holding down the fort here. And we'll see you all next Wednesday.
Yep. Sounds good. Have a good week, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening and watching the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at celebrationbarreview.com.